Hi there, welcome back to another scrapbook layout share with a little process along the way. Since this is National Scrapbooking Month, I decided that it would be a good time to share with you what I've been working on. Now, lately I've been catching up on adding photos or printing photos and adding them on my workshop layout. This is something that I promised myself I was going to do this year, and this is how I'm going to get there. Some of these pages were designed without specific photos in mind. Today I'm going to walk you through several layouts, and I'm going to show you how I add the finishing touches, from adding the photos to pre-made layouts and even doing some journaling. So grab a coffee or your favorite drink and let's dive right in. Let's talk about this layout. This is layout number 1 of a full workshop that I created, and my focus was on these beautiful pages. But now it's time to add some photos. So we're going to do that quickly together, and I'm going to break it down for you because a lot of us like to create workshops where we have multiple pages using the same paper collection, and then we get home and we get a little stuck. So for this one here, you'll notice that the title is quite generic, and this title was printed on my computer. When I moved from Close to My Heart to Stampin' Up, at this time, this was not designed for scrapbooking. It was definitely designed for card making, but I really wanted to make this work. So this is a pretty generic title. When I was looking at these pages, I started to focus on the colors, and then I pulled these photos. These photos are from a recent trip that I did to Aruba, and I was looking at, do you see the orange in this gorgeous sunset and the orange glow on my page? This is a photo of my best friend and her husband enjoying the beautiful sunset. This is me and my husband, and then this is just more photos of that beautiful sunset. So you will notice that the first thing I did print these to size, and I did cut them down. This is a true 5x7. So you know what? Let's do it together. And I want to show you how quickly it can be once you land on photos that you like. So what I did this week, I focused on photos and I focused on journaling, and we'll get to that in 1 minute. So I'm going to add this photo here. I have a little word that's stuck down. It was part of the workshop, so I'm going to gently lift that, and I'm going to sneak my photo right underneath. I guess I'll have to pull it all the way. There we go. So all of my photos have been trimmed down by 1/4 of an inch. And these ones here, I can't wait to see how this is going to look, because this was kind of like a top of a card if you want, but it was the perfect size for, look at that, for a 3x4 photo. I'm going to add this picture here. And when I do layouts and I don't have photos, I will lightly tack the elements down. So this one here now, I can go ahead and I can add all of the adhesive I want. I just want to make sure that I'm lining it up with this edge. There you have this picture, and you know what? I love it. I love the way that it frames this photo. So we're going to go here on this side. Now, I'm not going to make you watch glue down all of my photos, but I do want you to kind of appreciate that this did not have any photos in mind. I hadn't even done the trip yet, so there's no way that I could have designed this layout to fit these beautiful photos, but here we are, and they do match. So I've got one more photo left, and I'm going to pop that right underneath. So I'm going to have to lift that. You know what? I'm going to lift it all the way. So the trick is, when you are doing photos, or when you are doing layouts, I should say, and you don't have your photos and you have these like elements at the top, just make sure that you don't add too much glue, because you need to come back and you do need to make sure that it fits and you're not going to rip your page. So I'm going to bring in my trusty ruler, and I want to make sure it's nice and straight. There we have our first layout, and it's all done. Now that you see the photos on here, would you have guessed that this was not designed with these photos in mind? So when you have layouts with no photos, look at the colors, look at the feel of the paper, and you will most definitely find photos. Now for this one here, I decided that I wasn't going to journal. It's pretty obvious we're enjoying the sunset. The only thing I did, I brought out my little stamp. This one here I got off of Amazon, but you can get them at Staples because a lot of people still use them. Now it's not a scrapbooking one per se, but I just wanted to document the date because when you go back and you look at pages that you have done, if you like to put them in albums chronologically or by year, this is going to be important, but the rest I think speaks for itself. Let's take a look at the other two layouts that were part of this workshop. For layout number 2, I have my printed layout here and it said Happy Times. When I looked at that title and I was looking again at the colors, I was able to pull out these photos, and this was our very first trip. The CDT girls and I, we went to Vancouver and we were wandering through Stanley Park. Now we did a lot of walking on this trip, and these photos here just reminded me of the tranquility we kind of felt when we got to this point, and it was pretty great. Janice wasn't in this shot, and then we said, okay, Janice, let's move, and we're gonna put you in the shot, and she thought, no, I got this. She took this selfie, and I thought it was perfect. So this was the perfect day, and it was the perfect set of photos to add to this layout. The only thing that I need to do here is to add my journaling, and again, I've been doing this pretty much all week, or on and off. I would concentrate on getting all of the photos. So I got all of the photos for the stack that I have here on the side, and then I came back and I did all of the journaling in one go, and you know what? It was easier than I thought. So for here, I could have tried to squeeze it all in, but I had a lot to say, so I decided to print off my computer, and I'm just going to kind of add some texture to it because here there's a little bit of texture. So this is how I do it. I do my little journaling box, which you can see here at the back, and then when I feed this same sheet in, I remove the box and I add my tag on top, and that usually works really well for me. You just have to be mindful. Some washi tape is really tacky, so I just want to pull back very gently. I don't want to rip that. For this one here, I'm going to do a little swap. I'm going to remove this tag and I'm going to put this one in its place. Now I know that I have some distressing, and I did that using crumb cake ink. So we're going to just kind of finish this, like get it done. I want to have these layouts done because I did promise myself that this is something I was going to do this year. So I'm just adding a little bit of distressing to kind of mimic what was going on here. I do like the idea of the lines, but I couldn't get it all to fit in here, the journaling that I wanted to add. So we're going to gently pull this one off. We're going to pull the cute little bow. It probably still has a glue dot. Yep, it sure does. And then I'm going to glue this down. So now I have my journaling spot. I have my journaling done for this layout, and I have my photos. So I'm well on my way to completing this workshop where I had no photos. Let's take a look at the next set of pages. Let's take a look at layout number 3. And this layout here, again, a completely different story. The printed layout still works, and the colors and the feel of the page, I think, really match up with my photo. So I'm going to take this journaling spot that I have here, and again, I removed the square or the frame. Let me just show you quickly. So right here, this is what I printed first. I had a little box because I knew I wanted to stay within a 4x4 format. So now I've printed it here. I did print it in a grayscale. This is me and my husband, and we were exploring this cave, and I do have quite a bit of photo, but I want to show you this one. So here we kind of ran into other tourists that were doing the same thing, and the lady said, hey, look up. And this is what you see when you look up. There's these chambers that light up the inside of these caves. It is so cool. So of course I'm going to add this on a flip flap, and then I'm going to tuck the story right at the back. So this is the workshop that I completed using the frames and flowers. And you know what? They're done. I'm so happy. They have pictures and I do have journaling. Do you like to shop your stash? This was one of those layouts. And I've been working on this milestone baby album for some time now. I will list the completed project down below, but this page here came together really beautifully. It's very soft and there's not a lot of pattern paper. What I did here and what I focused here on was layering some stamping and some stenciling to match the colors of my photos and to just bring this page to life. So this was just one page, random page that I did. And of course my milestone, that was pretty easy to put down in the journaling. And then it was the 5th month. So my title was done using my Cricut. When you're scrapbooking one layout at a time, usually it's easy enough to do the journaling right then and there. It's when you do those multiple pages that can get tricky. So like you, when I purchase paper collections, I do want to use them all, and that's why I create workshops. The workshops I create are medium to advanced if you want, but I write everything down and I try and make the best use of the paper. And this collection here, I absolutely loved it. I did some fussy cutting, which if you know me, that's not my strong suit. I added again a beautiful title, and I printed that title because this paper collection was not meant for scrapbooking. It was meant for card making. I want to show you how I got my journaling done for so many pages. I sat down in one go, I looked at the photos, and then I just tried to remember the feeling. What was the feeling, and what do I want other people that are looking at these pages, what do I want them to know about what's going on these pages? And this one here was just capturing the ordinary. I didn't have these photos in mind, believe it or not, but these photos were taken back in, let me see here, just another quiet day, January 2023. We wandered the wooded paths near our house, soaking in the fresh air. There's something peaceful about the way the light captures the trees at this time of year. It is crisp, calm, and just what we needed. And those photos were done in 2023, and this was done in 2025. I'm going to use these labels here, and of course Erin put me onto these. I think she did that for a lot of people, but I like that I can put a whole bunch of journaling boxes on one sheet. I've set it aside to dry like maybe 30 minutes because this is a slick surface. Now all printers are different. Right here at the back there is tips and tricks on how to print this better at home. So you just scan the QR code and it will take you directly to Avery and they will give you their best tip. I think that's the best way to do it. Go straight from the source. I can tell you that I just feed this into my printer and I don't do anything any different. And you might try it and it may not work. So my recommendation to you, go back to Avery and see what they recommend. It's kind of trial and error, but for me, I just put it in, it prints, I set it aside to dry, and I'm good to go. Let me show you how I'm going to add this to my page right here. I'm going to bring in my small paper trimmer. Now, I do keep the box on here, but it's very faint, so you're probably not going to see it in this video. And then I just cut on the line, and we're going to add it to our layout, and it looks so good. It looks like somehow it got printed directly on the page. So I've got my little piece here. Let me move this out of the way. I know that I want to add it to the bottom here, so I'm going to give myself a fighting chance if you want, because I'm doing this live. I'm going to add my little T ruler, and I want this to be straight and in line with this photo. So back here, depending on where you are on that sheet, there's little areas where it splits apart, which makes it easy to peel back. So I tend to peel back the side that I'm going to rest it on my rulers. I've got it right here. This is nice and straight. And you'll notice that I did print this in gray, in blue gray, because I didn't want this to stand out too much. So do you see that? Look at that. It's so pretty. And it looks like I actually printed directly on my layout. So this is layout number 1. Let's take a look at the next 2 layouts. All right, here's a look at layout number 2 from that same workshop. And you know what was funny? When I was getting ready to film this, I thought these were done. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I forgot my journaling. So again, I'm going to use the little Avery labels to my rescue. The photos were selected, they were put on, and I was quite happy with myself. And then I realized, you're missing your journaling. So let's go back and let's finish these layouts. I'm going to add this here. I like to expose the smaller end so that it doesn't stick down too quickly, because once this is down, it is down. And I want to see this is straight enough so I can actually line this up right with the edge of my paper. I don't need my T-ruler. I'm going to line that up. I did print that in blue to match the blue here, and I did have a lot to say. The font is quite small because I didn't want it to take over the page, but I wanted the story to be there. So the story is about this cottage that we go to twice a year. We found this cottage when COVID hit. After COVID, all of the crops that we used to attend stopped. The in-person crops stopped. So we found this beautiful lake house, and we still go. We still go twice a year, and we enjoy going every single year. And you know what? It's reverse. This is how this layout goes. Here we go. I was wondering why it looked a little bit funny. Sometimes I put my label on the right page. I'm not sure about you if you always keep them on the left, because when you're flipping through your album, but I like the design of the big photos here and then all of the other ones in a row. And now I feel that my journaling also makes more sense. So this is how it was meant to be. But you know what? If you like it this way, it could work too. It still has a nice flow, but there's a picture missing here. So this is how this layout was meant to go. I really like the way this turned out. Let's take a look at layout number 3 from the Winter Meadows workshop. And these were photos taken in Alaska with my very good friend. And you know what? She's probably the only one who would have ever gotten me to go to Alaska. Coming from Canada, going to Alaska is not the first thing on my bucket list, but you know what? I am so glad I went with Janice. We had a great time. Here we are in Juneau, and it rained. Oh my gosh, did it ever rain? And I had a lot to say on my journaling, so I pulled this photo off. This is me in front of Nugget Falls, and we have a photo of both of us. For this layout, I also printed that in a lighter shade of gray. I think black would have been a little bit too much. And my distressing was done again in crumb cake. So I'm going to kind of finish that off with you. I'm going to add a tiny little bit of distressing just so that it has the same look and feel as my page. So see, this is what happens when you can't do all of it at once. And you know what? Most of us cannot. And I'm here to tell you it's totally fine. You can concentrate on building your pages and then make yourself a promise. Make yourself a date with yourself. Go back, find the photos. That's the first step. And then go back and do your journaling. I'm telling you that doing my journaling in one go was really great. So here I had a scrap of the same paper. I'm going to add it. Where am I going to add it? I think I'm going to add it on this side, but I am going to ink distress this piece as well. So if you don't wait too long, you remember, or hopefully you'll remember the colors that you used and the paper, and you still have a few scraps, because this here I did have to hunt down where I had stash this paper in my room and find this tiny little piece, because I do want to add it here so people know that they have to pull. So I'm going to add some double-sided tape on both sides, and we are going to call this layout finish and this workshop finish. Like, I'm pretty excited to share with you that I am much better at going back and adding my stories. So this is my story here, and it's going to live in back of this photo. So I'm going to peel back. I really like to use like 3D tape, but on a roller I find that it's easier. I'm going to bring back my T-ruler, and I'm going to make sure that my photo is lined up with this one. And you can see that there's a little bit of damage from me pulling this photo off. But once I put it back, you're not going to see that. So I think I have to compensate for the fact that I've got some dimensionals in back. That's nice and straight. Okay, so this is going to house my story, just like that. So this is complete, and I was able to add all of my photos on my Winter Meadows workshop. This was a real fun layout. This layout here, the focus was on metallic papers. And when I started to focus on that, so that's a good tip for you. Sometimes when you're doing a layout, you don't know where to start. Focus on something, stamping, metallic papers, anything. And you'll be surprised as to what it kind of brings out of you to look for different types of photos. So these photos here were, as the title suggests here, it's the Brockville Railway Tunnel, and it's really fun. We went there, my husband and I, for an afternoon, and again, because this was a single page layout, I was able to concentrate on my title and my journaling. There's not a lot here to say about this location. We just took a day, we drove out, we went to Brockville, we walked through the tunnel, and inside the tunnel there's music and there's a light show, which inspired me to do this really cool rainbow effect on my title. My title was done on my Cricut, and I literally looked at the colors in my photos and I just laid them out in a rainbow order. I did a little bit of stamping, not a lot. This layout came together really nicely, and it's quite simple. So some layouts are simple, but the impact is what you select when you are doing your layouts. These next 3 layouts are done using the Everyday You and Me collection, and this was a scrapbooking kit. And I knew, at this point, I knew what photos I wanted, what I wanted to document. I definitely wanted to document my Aruba trip, and this is a series of photos from one of the places we visited. It is the lighthouse. It's at the end of the island. It is called the California Lighthouse, and this has to go in a flip flap. So I'm going to add this one here. This paper collection was so pretty, and I couldn't wait to document this trip when I saw it. So sometimes that happens. You see a paper collection and you know straight away what photos you're going to use and how you are going to document them. So these are all of the layouts that were done for this workshop. I did some custom titles, but you did have titles in the kit. I just took the kit in a slightly different direction. I added some journaling here, and I even journal on top of my photo. So this here was like 3 workshops documenting a trip, and they were all done within that same time frame. So that is a really good feeling when you can use up your paper and put some photos down and do your journaling all at once. Do you like to stamp on your layouts? This layout here is all about stamping, and I love it. I'm still working my way through my Vancouver trip, as you can see, and I did a whole bunch of different stamping, from stamping on die cuts, random stamping, background stamping, and I even brought back an old-time favorite, stamp kissing. And for this stamp set here, it was the perfect technique. So sometimes, again, when you focus on a particular technique, it's a little bit easier to find photos and papers and just go for it. But let's face it, when you're doing one layout, it's definitely easier to find your photos. It's when you get to those workshops that can be a little bit tricky. Speaking of workshops and needing to find lots of photos, now yes, I must confess, I did have photos in mind for this workshop, and you can see here that they're not on yet. They will be. I will adhere all of these down. On this page here, the layout called for three 3x3 photos, and even though I had photos in mind, I just couldn't find that right photo to fit a square formatting. Sometimes some photos you just cannot crop them down. So I added these ones, and then I have this lizard. Now these lizards are everywhere in Aruba. They have this brilliant teal color to them. I didn't want to cut off his tail. That wouldn't have been too nice. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to sneak that over. And I'm going to change, if you want, the intended 3x3 and put in a 3x4, and that is absolutely fine. Let's talk about the journaling here for 1 second. I'm going to go back to my sheet because I did them all in one go. And you know what was the other thing for me anyways? I'm not sure if you're like that, but when I do my journaling, not only do I overthink it, but I also overthink what font am I going to use. I landed on this font here. It's a typewriter font. I will list it down in the description below. Everything was done using that same font, and I like it. I kept it simple. Now at this point, I will take a look at my page and I will see where can I add some journaling. Now I could have added another circle and put my journaling right here, or a couple of tags. That would have been a good option. I could have added here, but I kind of wanted to see the pretty flowers. There's always the option of creating a little pocket in back here, or just lifting it with dimensional foam, or again, bring back those clear labels, because they are the easiest way to add your journaling to pretty much any layout. So I'm going to add it right here. Do you see here? It's nice and white. And I did measure this area. So I go in with my ruler, I measure the area. I didn't have a huge story for this layout, but I did want to mention that we were visiting around the sights of Aruba, and we finished our day at the beach, and it was just a perfect way to end my day. I did do a right justify because I knew that this is where I wanted my journaling to land. So I'm going to cut that down and I'm going to add it to this page, and I'm also going to tack down my photos. Let's take a look at layout number 2 for this workshop. And you're probably wondering, why don't you add your photos right away? Well, because this is a workshop, sometimes my photos can distract from other people, and then they can't see beyond what this layout could be with their photos. It's kind of like when you go visit a house or you're selling your home, they say to depersonalize it so that people can see themselves in that home. So here are the pictures. I knew I was going to document these pictures, and here they are. On this layout, I knew I had a lot to say because I wanted to describe, this is the butterfly farm in Aruba. So I wanted to talk about our visit there and how wonderful it was. And I'm going to tuck it right here on the clear label, and you can see that it just fits. It's not too big. That's why the font is really, really small. And again, you can tuck it underneath, or you could take a photo away and put your journaling right here. That is another option, but take a look at this with my photos full of butterflies. And then when I present this as a workshop, I don't include photos because I don't want people to say, well, I don't have butterfly photos. I can't add photos on these pages. When you look at the layout this way, it's a clean slate, and then you can imagine your very own pictures on these pages. So this is layout number 2. Let's look at layout number 3. For layout number 3, I knew that I was going to have a lot of photos with people. And sometimes when you have a lot of photos with people, if you have busy pattern papers at the back, it just gets really, really busy. So this is a very special memory for me. This was my first on stage. So where is my journaling for that? Here it is right here. It's going to live right here at the bottom. So this was my first on stage experience. And what I really enjoyed was making connections. I was able to really connect with Chelsea. She's my new upline, and Natalie has been my scrapbooking BFF from the get-go. A lot of people think we're friends before scrapbooking, and you know what? We were not. We met through scrapbooking and we have been friends ever since. So the three of us, although a small team, I think we had some really good times and memorable times together. For me, the best thing about On Stage was to meet up with all of these creative people. I got to hang out with Chelsea, which is something I don't get to do. I'm in Ottawa, she's in Alberta, so we don't get to hang out all that much. We do talk a lot online, but there is nothing like catching up in person. We got to catch up with Jema and Aaron. We were representing the CDT girls, and there was 4 of us. I wish that we could have all been there together, but as most of you know, this event sold out quite quickly. I also got a chance to meet Melanie. Melanie is such a kind soul, and I'm so glad I got to meet her. We do talk online, but this was my first time meeting her, and I also met Tanya. Tanya is just a hoot. I love spending time with all of these girls, so this was kind of like our little clan and our roomies that we roomed together. We took some time at this event to meet up with some of our CDT creatives, and you know what? That was really, really special. We do see your names when you post on our Facebook group, but now we were able to put a face and give you a warm hug. So that was also a big highlight of my on-stage experience this year. It was a lot of fun. So again, yes, I did have photos in mind for this layout. I wasn't quite sure how much I wanted to journal because it hadn't happened, but it's going to live right here. I think that it's going to be a good spot. Now I have one last layout to share with you. Typically, my workshop guides include 3 layouts, but sometimes there is room for a 4th layout. And this is a 4th layout that I did using that same collection. And this one here was focusing on shapes. And I don't know about you, but hexagons scare me. I can never get them right. And I thought, okay, I'm going to focus on using them. They're not that scary. It is just a shape. And I really, really love the way this turned out. The paper, of course, what made it so easy to work with, and these beautiful photos. Here you can see that I am still documenting my Vancouver trip with the CDT girls. I love the way this turned out. From the bright colors in the photos to the bright colors in this paper collection. I will be adding a flip flap, and this is where the journal is going to be right inside. I really love the way that this turned out, and it was a really good use of that paper. Thank you so much for spending this creative time with me today. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you've picked up a few helpful tips. Now, I really want to know, which part of finishing a scrapbook page do you struggle with the most? For me, when I have multiple pages, it's definitely picking those photos. Until next time, keep crafting, keep creating, and keep telling your stories. Bye for now.